Welcome to my podcast. This is Mary Turderoff, and you are listening to Jump In with Mary. Welcome, listeners. I'm going to start with a story, for a true story. 14 years ago today, two couples from California who did not know each other had their wedding day on the same day, different locations, got on a plane, flew to a place called Turtle Island in Fiji, where Blue Lagoon was shot with Brooke Shields in it. We got on a plane and then a second seaplane that landed on water on a very deserted island. And these two couples met, became best friends forever. The wives fell in love with each other. The husbands fell in love with each other. And today we have one of the two people from that story here, my dear friend, Rachel Zamolo. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you.
So Rachel is like, she was on my honeymoon with me. I was on her honeymoon with her in Fiji. And I think it's kind of a miraculous story how we met.
Absolutely.
And our husbands are really great friends as well. And while we were on our honeymoon, they went canoeing together. They started a bromance. They went canoeing together and they got stranded on an island. And Rachel and I did not even notice they were gone for 10 hours, which says a lot about how our marriage has gone the last 14 years. But it has been really neat to start our friendship there. And after all this time, our 14 years of friendship and marriage, I've learned so much. And I want to kick it off with Rachel, the fact that was your second marriage. You had a whole life of beautiful experiences. When I met you, I wasn't a mom yet. You were already a pro mom with a lot of life perspective. And you had gone through a fertility clinic, something I experienced with my second child down the line. But I'd like to talk about that. I have a lot of friends who are considering surrogacy. You did this back then when it was actually still a little new. But can you share like the process of how you find someone, a surrogate for your journey? Like, I don't even know how that process begins. Do you go to a facility? Do you look through a brochure? Give us a little play-by-play of that.
Okay. All great questions. And Mary, I love you and adore you and am honored to be here supporting you with this beautiful new venture of yours.
Thank you.
So years ago, my daughter just turned 22. And so a lot has changed and I'm not sure how things would work today. But then I wanted to make sure that I was in a state that had laws to protect surrogacy rights. And
wait, were you guys in California?
I was living in Arizona and had a vacation home in California as well. But in Arizona, there were no laws to protect, let's say, someone who would want to go through surrogacy and go through the process. And so because of that, decided that everything that I was planning on doing would be in California. And my fertility doctor was in California. And through his office, they referred me to a few different surrogacy agencies. And there were, I don't know, 3 or 4 that I looked into at the time. And the surrogacy agencies would provide a list of applicants, surrogate applicants.
Like names with pictures, or?
It would be names with a whole health history.
Okay.
And that my fertility doctor would be the person, he was the one going through each candidate or each applicant's record as far as their health history, their lifestyle, to check all the boxes or to see what things were most important, let's say, overall in that respect. So the surrogacy agency was more or less a middle person, let's say, to connect a couple who would like to have a child to the surrogate who would like to get paid to do through the process. And you pay them a fee and you have to sign off on not
like a legal contract, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. She can't come around and say, well,
okay. Right. So that's pretty much to be introduced to these surrogates. That's the way that I had gone about this.
Okay.
And my doctor, Dr. Potter at the time, reviewed and met with a few of these. And from the list, I had looked at things like, were they married? Were they planning on having any more children? Did they have children? Just certain things that at the time I thought would be comforting
Right.
to move forward in, let's say, hiring someone to
Right.
be a gestational surrogate.
Right. Because it's okay. So it's called gestational surrogate. Just to get the terms down, that's when it's your egg, your significant other's sperm, and so it's your child,
Right.
and she's only the carrier. Correct.
Right.
Okay. So is it like I'm visualizing a job interview, which is what it sounds like? So is it like you get to interview 3 people, or the doctor says you got to hone in on one? You meet with a one, and if you don't like that one, then we move on to the second one. Or what was it like?
I think the doctor did a lot of the work
work.
for me.
Oh, they
And
pre-interview the ladies?
yes, he
Okay.
had already gone through the medical charts. He had already met with the woman and significant other. And so through that and my conversations with my doctor and his recommendation, I kind of went with that. And then from there, I think from memory, it's been a long time, but I believe that I only met with one candidate, and there probably were a few more. So my doctor really liked the fact that she had been in the military and her husband was also. He thought that they would be very diligent with appointments and taking medication on time and just following through with the whole process in a responsible way.
That's so interesting. An interesting way to put, like, logically. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, in addition to obviously a lot of health things that were, that kind of lined up that made sense. She had 2 children. She had her tubes tied, no interest in having a third. And they really wanted to do this to just do something wonderful for another family. And just a beautiful thing. And also they were getting paid.
Of course.
So it was a business proposition, but I am extremely grateful and appreciative of the whole process.
That's what makes this so unique, because it very much is a business proposition. It's a business deal, and yet it's so personal. So there's a contrast, yet they blend in together. And that's why I'm trying to visualize it like a movie scene. And I was going to ask you, when you first meet us, or in your situation, there's probably a lot of different ways people meet their surrogates. Does it happen like at the doctor's office? Do you plan to meet at a coffee shop? Do you remember any of that?
I remember very well. We were in Tustin, in an office building, in a boardroom.
Wow, a boardroom. That's like so it's formal. You're not in a
yes,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. It was the owner of the surrogacy agency and the couple, and then the 2 of us.
And her husband came.
Yes.
Okay.
She and her husband. And I'm trying to remember, I really am, whether we had to put a lot of information together about ourselves prior to. So they had a good understanding. I think we had to write a letter and explain sort of our story and where we were coming from. I had 4 miscarriages. I had gone through a lot of fertility.
Before signing up with her,
before
right?
doing this.
Wow, 4
right.
miscarriages is a lot.
So it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was definitely a lot. So yes, it was basically a meeting at and where we just kind of had to sign off on some legal things and meet each other and then find out how the process was going to unfold.
Wow. So the first meeting where you signed the contract is the first time you're actually meeting her,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Wow, that sounds intimidating.
Yes.
Like I could imagine your heart just pounding out of your chest, and
yes.
You're also getting to know someone who's going to birth your child.
Right. Exactly. I think we probably didn't sign together right there in the room. So, but we got all of the information and we were, sort of went through all of the the protocol of how everything we would proceed. And so from there, we felt very comfortable moving
Okay.
forward. And that's how the process started.
And this makes me wonder, so you're in this business relationship with another woman, and it's if it's too formal, it's weird, right? Like what I'm wondering is, did you text her and reach out in the middle, like a friend? How are you doing? How's everything going? Are you supposed to text them? Do they tell you to
Right.
just stay quiet?
So the process, let's see, the surrogate, I think weekly, I believe it was weekly or maybe even bi-weekly, they met with support groups with other surrogates. So, and they had a
Oh.
social worker.
And
So
you're
there
not
were
present at these, right?
No,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
So I remember I hired an attorney for the surrogate and had an attorney for us. And that way she's protected and then we're protected. So that's one aspect. Then there was a social worker. She had a social worker and I had the same social worker, but she met with a social worker separately and we met with a social worker
But
separately.
you had a shared social worker representing you as a collective, right?
Exactly. But each of us
Separately meeting.
exactly. Yes.
Okay.
And so when certain issues would arise because certain things did come up, we then, on a couple of occasions, got together with the social worker, or this actually was a psychologist, and where he, in a sense, was kind of a mediator to kind of work through, example, my surrogate wound up in the hospital because of, I'm not even sure what. I just received a phone call saying she was in the hospital. And yeah, I was really freaked out. And you kind of have to relinquish control in every way because you're not carrying your baby.
Right.
So, which I learned to, I guess, I learned to do pretty well. But at
And
this point,
are you allowed to you get a call, are you allowed to show up to the hospital? Because there's also some level of formality. Like you get a call, she's there. Are you
I
supposed to go?
didn't, right. No, I didn't know what hospital she was
Oh,
at.
you
I
didn't
didn't
get the
know
info.
any details. And so then I called many times and
Oh
I
wow.
didn't get an answer. And so I
So you have to surrender.
I reacted, and was concerned and worried and stressed. And so I think that, overall then it stressed, my surrogate out. And so then we went, we met with the psychologist in the office so I could express my feelings of fear that I just would want to know, hey, is everything okay? I just got a call. Could you just let me know
Like an update or something.
something? And then, she was coming from the perspective of just being pregnant and stressed or, her perspective, let's
Right,
just say.
right.
So
That's very interesting and very relatable. I'm sure it happened. I mean, we've all had situations. We end up in the hospital. It's very relatable. And wow, that's so interesting.
yeah,
It's like a very intense, short-term relationship with another human.
right. Yes, it was definitely an experience. It was beautiful and amazing, and I'm forever grateful. But it was very challenging, and mostly for the part of with your child. Uh, Even when it comes down to whether you drink coffee or whether you put Splenda in your coffee or just every part of your day,
Right.
relinquishing that control and just kind of giving it, I guess, to God and putting it in faith and just faith in the process and faith in God that everything's going to be okay. And so
Wow.
relying a lot on that kind of got me through a lot of this.
And you know what I'm thinking as you're talking is people talk about the practice of surrender. They have to surrender here, surrender. This is like a whole book on surrender because you had to surrender to the fact you went through all this treatment yourself personally and trying to get pregnant. So then you come to a point where the clinic is saying, we got to look at second options. That's a surrender, right? Surrender that I cannot carry this child. And then second surrender is you have another woman carrying your child. And like you said, it's very wondering is she taking any pills that she's not supposed to be taking or is she around secondhand smoke? I'm sure you thought about all of this. And that's a big surrender because you obviously can't like call her every second.
Exactly.
That your team would not be happy about that. So wow, Rachel, that's a lot of like mindful surrender. Did you find yourself like meditating, or did you have a support group of girlfriends, family that helped you push through those months of that kind of surrender when she carried your child?
Fortunately, I have an amazing family.
Yeah.
And so I have my mom and my dad and my sister to thank for just
Teaming up.
being my rock and just being there for me and just extremely supportive. And so with their help and
Love.
love and support,
That's
I
beautiful.
was able to get through everything and
And all is
and
well.
all is well.
Because
And
she's a beautiful,
yeah,
really smart girl.
yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
She
Yes, I'm
is.
very proud of her.
Yes. And let's be mindful of the time because 2024 now, it's a lot more common. But you did this over 2 decades ago. And this was, well, it was taboo even about 10 years ago. Very taboo. My question to you is, did you feel that stigma at the time where like people didn't talk about having another woman carry their child? Or in your community, was it really okay to just blurt it out? Did you feel at ease?
I think because I was so comfortable myself with the idea of moving forward with this, I didn't really care if it was, let's say, taboo, or I didn't even think about it.
I love
I was
that.
so happy that it was an option.
Yeah.
And I did think about adoption.
You did?
And I think adoption is a beautiful thing. And so I was gathering information with adoption and then with surrogacy. And so decided to go pursue the surrogacy. But if I hadn't been successful, then I would have been open-minded to adoption also. So, but so I just kind of moved forward and felt really good
So it was like a
inside my own
no-brainer.
skin
Perfect.
and I had the support that I needed within my own network with my family that I guess it really wasn't an issue.
That's amazing and a blessing because in some communities, it's so is an issue and women feel like they have to hide it or pretend it's not happening. So I love that for you and in your community and group, it was like a no-brainer. You're just honest. This is what's happening. Question. Now fast forward for moms listening who are considering it or currently in the middle of it. And I know everyone be wondering this. She's old. She's older. What age do you tell? Because I know you lead a very beautifully honest mother-daughter relationship. At what age, at what point did you tell your child about the fact that she was born from a surrogate? Or do you tell the child? Let's talk about that.
Okay. That's a great question. And I actually went to Dr. Blinder. He is a psychiatrist, psychoanalyst, specializing in children. And there was a lot that I was going through. I was going through a divorce. It's just it's a big story.
Right.
And so I just wanted to make sure that I was doing everything the way that I should be doing, because my most important thing would be to have a happy, healthy, well-adjusted, confident child.
Absolutely.
And that I would be following all of the things, at least, I'm not perfect, but try to do everything that I should be doing.
Right.
And so he had offered a lot of advice to me, but one of the things was just be honest with your child, and your child will know anyway. If you aren't honest, they'll know if you're making something up. So just be forthcoming. And I always felt really proud and grateful for having this process as an option for me and
Right.
for us, that I looked at it like it's a beautiful thing. It's a blessing. It's nothing to be ashamed about or hide. And I would scream it from the top of the mountains. I feel to this day so happy. My daughter is just my world.
Yeah.
And so I had no problem out of the get-go from the second that she could understand anything
You
with
talk to
just
her.
absolutely, and
Like
just
what
explaining
age
things.
approximately? Because at some age is too young. What doesn't make sense anyways.
Right. At the age of when you're reading, I guess if there
Like
are, I
8,
don't know if there are
9.
any books these days, if there are, and if
Now
there
there are,
were.
but when 2 decades ago, I don't know that there was so much literature
Right.
n-
And I wish
for
I
them.
could remember.
I feel like there wasn't. That's why I'm asking, like, did you sit down and have one of those, we're going to have a serious conversation now?
It was
No.
never like
Okay.
that. It
Okay.
was just very sort of like how any conversation goes. It's not any one particular long conversation. It just maybe when a question
Mm.
about, oh, mommy, I'm
When did you,
making
yeah.
this up, but was I in your tummy?
Yes,
Something like that.
exactly.
Then at that time, it would have been a perfect time for me to say, well, honey, you're part of mommy's body. I'm just thinking
Yeah,
this is
I
knowing
know.
myself how I would have.
I was just thinking, how do you
And
even explain this? It's so hard to explain.
but you weren't in mommy's tummy. I'm just imagining that I probably would
Yeah.
have done it something like that. But just very natural and
Yeah.
just kind of I didn't stress too much about the wording or how I said it, or I just was real and honest and positive, and I never wanted her to feel ashamed, embarrassed, or so I think
I
if
love that.
someone were to ask Haley uh, about all of this, my guess is she's probably always felt really comfortable with the whole thing because it's just been
Because you've been comfortable. It sounds like you've taken a very I'm
exactly
comfortable with it approach.
right,
Wow.
right.
That's so cool, Rachel. And I don't know if you know, but that's the minority. So that's really cool that you harbored such a peaceful space that got rid of any stereotype. And so she's living in that gratefulness too.
Aw, well, thank
That's
you,
really cool. Oh, thank you for
thank
sharing that
you.
story. And I'm just going to throw it out there and ask, surrogate never reaches out, right? Like you sign a contract and they're not allowed to reach out after. Yes?
So the surrogate, I think, it's a long story,
But is it,
but
well, let's start with the contract. Because I'm thinking, as a lawyer, I'd want to get that signed. And this might not sound so sweet of me to say, but I just want to move on. And I don't know that I'd want the surrogate to be part of our our life.
right,
Like, you can have a lot of gratitude and say, I need to move on so I can move on.
right, right.
So I'm wondering, there are options, I think, right? You can
Okay, so
sign.
I don't there's adoption and adoption law, and I don't know how things are now, and I'm not an attorney,
But
but
this wasn't
this
considered
isn't
adoption law.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm just in a sense trying to put a little bit of a comparison, I guess. Um, with adoption, there are open and there are closed adoptions. This this is not biologically the makeup of this surrogate.
Right.
So that's a whole other thing too. But
Yeah.
yes, it's a legal contract and bound to it was basically a business deal,
Right.
and it was not an open relationship to continue having her in our lives, or she's not a parent of
Right.
our child. Uh,
They're like no visitation rights, right?
right. They're
Okay.
no, not at all.
Okay. That sounds
Absolutely
right.
not.
Yeah.
So I guess it's right. I guess probably
So that,
straightforward, probably simple. And so, no, there is no relationship. Now, if she were to call me tomorrow and check in and ask me how things are, I would be absolutely happy to share,
yes.
and it would be fine.
Right.
But no, we haven't been involved in each other's lives. And
That's interesting. Yeah, that makes the most logical sense to me. And I know this wasn't your experience, but just to throw in a monkey wrench, I'm thinking it would probably be a little more complicated if like she was also an egg donor. So right, that makes it complicated because then it is part her DNA, which was not the case. So that sounds like you guys made it work and everything was smooth sailing as far as the pregnancy and your daughter's, you know,
yes,
integrating into all of it goes.
yes.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
It's a beautiful process, and it's put your seatbelt on because you're in for a ride, and there's a lot of ups and downs, and you just have to keep the end game, the at the in the back of your mind, know that your baby is coming out of all of this. And so just hang in there because it's not always smooth sailing.
Yeah.
So
it's not. And you said the baby is coming out, and I can't help just have a visual right now. Were you in the room?
I was in the room.
Oh my, I don't know if I could even.
I cut the cord.
You did.
I did.
Wait, hold on, pause, rewind. Okay. Oh my, I was just thinking, I don't know if I would faint. I couldn't even look at my son. I just had the curtain over my neck and I thought, Lord, nobody put a mirror anywhere. I don't want to see any reflection. Wait, so did you watch it?
So my whole family was at the hospital, and my surrogate apparently had gone into labor and delivered pretty quickly within a few hours for her other 2 births. So we thought the same thing would happen, and it didn't happen. We were there for many, 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 many hours. My parents I don't remember, it's like 2 a.m., 1 a.m., wound up leaving the hospital, checked into a hotel across the street. About 30 minutes later,
the baby was born.
So my sister was in the hospital room with me and the surrogate and woke me up and said, Rachel, oh my gosh, she's having the baby.
Wait. So you're sleeping on a chair in a waiting room?
No, we were in the hospital room at this point with her, my surrogate. Yes.
Okay, and your sister,
my sister and I were sharing, lying next to each other.
How cute
in
are
this
you?
Sort of
like a recliner.
Recliner, exactly. And so the 2 of us, and for me, it was so surreal that I was going through all of the motions, but I couldn't cry. I couldn't faint. I was just so. It was amazing. I can't.
But also nuts. It's a little nuts. Like, what do you say?
Crazy. It was amazing.
Amazing,
so
crazy, and amazing.
Crazy, and it was beautiful, and it was. Yeah, it was wild. My sister, when she gave birth to her daughter, I cried my eyes out. I couldn't even. There were so many emotions that I couldn't even tangentially describe or put my finger on what, if anything, I was feeling.
You know what, Rachel? It didn't occur to me before we started our chat, but you have a really unique perspective, because I've always wondered what it would be like to be the spouse or significant other, in my case, my husband, who like they're watching. And I always thought, that's gotta be a lot too. I don't know how I would do if I were the other on the other side watching. I wouldn't what's the right thing to say? It's kind of chaotic and
that's a great point.
And so you're a female, but you were taking on a very male perspective in the sense that you were supporting a woman giving birth, but you were standing on the other side.
100%.
And so did you, just like a comedic note, was there a moment where you're like, I don't really, are you supposed to rah, cheer on? Are you supposed to just shut up and be quiet? Who knows? What were you doing? Were you saying anything?
Oh boy, it's funny.
You were looking for a martini.
She had a coach. I know, right? Exactly. Where's the tequila?
Exactly. She had a coach. Wait, she had a coach.
Yes, and the surrogate, the agency director, so the owner of the agency was there.
Whoa!
Yes.
So there's that many people
so
there.
She was there. I think by next to her. Trying to remember who else. Obviously, the doctor. And my sister and I think the whole thing was just,
wow.
There's so many things that were going on. I don't really.
It's kind of a blur
in a sense, but I do remember Haley coming out. I do remember.
You remember your daughter. You saw your daughter.
I saw my daughter coming out.
Oh my God!
And then I was told to cut the umbilical cord, and I just kind of followed the instructions. I didn't do any thinking for myself. It was just thinking for me.
You're moving. You're just moving. Yeah, your body's moving.
And it was amazing. But that's a really great way to look at it. It was kind of from a husband's
perspective or spouse's perspective, who's not doing the the birthing.
Right.
Wow.
It really was.
And so you're watching. You saw the blood, everything. And it didn't make you feel queasy.
No.
Wow. Good job.
No.
That's a lot. Some men have fainted. I mean,
yeah. I was in the medical industry before that.
Oh, I forgot.
So I think it was probably closer to that time that I was in that. Now I probably would faint.
Oh my gosh.
It's been a long time. But
was her husband in the room? How does that work?
That's a good question, and I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah. The logistics are fascinating of a
I really
very
don't think so. I do remember the next morning, she wanted to say hello and goodbye
oh
to the baby.
yeah.
And I completely could understand in the hospital room. So, and the beginning of I think it's the colostrum. It's the beginning part of the breast milk.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
the
Okay.
nutrients and the important
Okay.
part. So I
Oh,
know
she's
that
breastfeeding.
they took the colostrum and fed
Okay.
Haley through a bottle.
Okay.
That first part of it, and then they brought Haley just so she could meet
And say goodbye.
right, and
That's
just
that's
she really
touching.
did a beautiful thing.
Yes.
And yes, it was a business deal, but it was also her whole body, and it was a beautiful thing.
Right.
So I had complete respect and understanding for that,
Wow.
and then that was it. And then she left, and then the rest is just I was a mom from that
From
point
that day
forward, and
forward.
had to have the car seat installed in the back of my car the right way, just
That's the
like
hardest
anybody
part.
else. And
Right? Do you remember that moment you put them in and you're like, am I supposed to drive this car with this fragile thing? They're so little.
yes, yes.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that story. It's really riveting. It's interesting because there's a lot of dichotomy, right? Business, but personal. Like she's doing something a mother would do, but she's not the mother, technical mother of this child. So there's a lot in that story. It sounds like you managed it. My favorite part of the story is the perspective you took on of no shame in having a surrogate. I love that. And it sounds like she picked up on that. Like your
Thank
daughter picked
you.
up on that,
Thank you.
ownership and pride. That was very cool.
Thank you.
Rachel.
It's an
Okay.
amazing thing that it exists, and that there are laws to protect people so that they could pursue that avenue if they are unsuccessful.
Absolutely.
Otherwise.
And then I know your fabulous second husband, who's our dear friend, Steve. So tell me, so for women who want some advice, can you give us some quirky advice about like marriage advice? Second time around, I saw you at that beach on our honeymoon. You beach goddess. Your man loves you. Like some little marriage tips. How do you keep it going? You've been married for almost 15 years. You have a daughter who went off to college. Do you guys keep up with date night? Do you guys I've been trying to find hobbies with my husband. It's hard. Like we have very different hobbies. So people have told me, find a hobby together. We have fun together, but just naturally, we really love different types of hobbies. How are you and Steve now that Haley's out of the house? What was it like? Let's start with the empty nester thing. Is it a real thing? Because you also have a larger than life social life. So is this whole talk about empty nest syndrome for real?
It's definitely for real.
Okay.
Absolutely. 100%.
So okay, wait. So what happened? So she leave? Is it like she left? And I've heard you just wake up the next day, like you pack them off for college, and it really is like a bus hits you. Is that true?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So it's the most amazing next chapter in their journey ahead. And, we raise our kids to hopefully have wings that they can fly and be on their own. And so, which makes me so happy.
Right.
But yes, definitely the fact that my only child, who I've been so attached to forever,
is a flying bird.
Is a flying bird, exactly.
And I was going to say, you can be happy for them, and you can still be a little sad inside.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, yes. So I would say over time, the way that it's definitely difficult. It's an adjustment. And there's, to put it in words, it's just a part of you that is sad and kind of lonely. And it just takes some getting used to. And the longer the period, so the semester, let's say, starts, for Haley, it was a little different because she started college during 2020 and it was COVID.
Oh, that's right.
So that was kind of a bizarre whole period. But for the most part, over the past 4 years, because she just graduated, each time we would get together and see her over Thanksgiving or Christmas or any parents' weekend and have a few days with her. It was always hard leaving for the first few days. And then it's not that it wasn't hard anymore, but it's just you kind of are you're comfortable with it. You're good with it. And it's I can't really put that in words other than the fact that it's okay. I know I'm going to see her again. I'll talk to her throughout the week or whenever, and it's all good. So does that ever go away? No. She's going to be living in Dallas, and I'm sad about that, but I know I can go out and visit her. So anyhow.
Oh, wait. She's going to officially live in Dallas?
She's going to be officially living in Dallas.
Oh my gosh, Rachel, I love Dallas. We have to go to Dallas.
Oh, at any time.
So wait, she moved there.
So
she's
we
there
just
now.
moved her into an apartment.
I didn't know that.
She's home right now. She just graduated. She's traveling to Europe for 3.5 weeks with her cousin and her very best grade school friends. And then she's in the process of interviewing right now for some jobs.
Wonderful.
So she's got to line up a job.
Yes.
And she's in a real neat area in Dallas. I love it.
Dallas is gorgeous.
It's kind of a just beautiful transition.
And wait, where were you flying to visit her? So I want to visualize the mom part. Where do you live now?
So we live in Newport Beach.
And she moved from Newport to what state was she going to college?
So Haley was attending Texas Christian University in Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay. So you were flying to visit your daughter.
Right.
Okay. Because you said leaving the first two, and I was wondering, are you flying? Are you driving to see her?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
So it's a bit of a, it was a big trek.
Yeah.
So it wasn't an hour drive.
Right. So I can just imagine the first few times you get on the plane to go home and you're just blowing your nose hard, and the person next to you is.
Actually, I remember before leaving her freshman year, after packing her up, and I was catching my flight. We were sitting in the car at a rental car. I'll never forget this. And I started to get emotional, and I just started to cry. And she looked at me and said, "Oh no, Mom, no. You can't do this. Like, you're not allowed to cry." Like, I had to be strong for her. And I thought, oh wow, I better shape up.
That's so cute.
Oh my gosh. I literally, from that point, I thought, I've got to be strong for her, because clearly she didn't want to see me. I have to be her rock, and I know how that is.
Yes. Wow.
So anyhow, but when I did get on the plane,
right, for you, then you started to weep on the plane.
My glasses on and cry
I could see you crawling on the airplane floor, and the stewardess is like, "Lady, get up and sit down."
Oh my God.
Oh, you got to fake it till you make it, I guess.
Exactly.
But that is such a beautiful moment where, like, you're feeling what you're supposed to be feeling as a mom, but she's also so right in what she said, right? Like,
be strong for me. This is going to be okay. And you're not allowed to break down. I can break down.
Yeah.
You need to be strong for me.
And in that moment, you kind of like, you pulled it together.
You pulled it together.
Yeah.
And so.
Here we are.
Yes. With that. And then you asked, tips for a marriage. Well, we're celebrating our 14th year anniversary, like you.
Yes.
And Mary, you're the very best. I just love you.
I love you too. I consider myself part of your marriage.
I know, but me too. Me too.
We had the same wedding anniversary. We didn't know each other. We got married on the same day, ended up at the same place. Like, what are the odds?
I know. And we did have the same wedding shoes, by the way.
Yes. Oh, I forgot.
Silver Jimmy shoes.
Yes.
I was telling Haley that.
Oh my gosh.
And so I said, but Haley, I got rid of them. She said, really? Why?
I mean, there's only so much
hold up.
storage room in the closet. I mean, our husbands refused to build out a bigger closet.
I know, right?
That's really good. Do you guys set up like date night? Because I feel like you already do a lot of stuff with like groups and friends.
So, yes. Let's see. Because
it must have shifted a lot since Haley left.
It has shifted a lot. And typically, if we're going to go out, it would be a Thursday or Saturday night, sometimes a Friday night. So usually if we're going to go out with other couples, those are the nights that we would go out, or if we're even going out. So we have a regular thing where we kind of know. And if we don't go out, because there are many weeks that we don't, that's okay too.
Yes.
But it's usual for us to say, oh, what do we he usually says, Rachel, what are we doing? Because I kind of make our social
Right.
plans.
I know.
And
most women do. I do. I just invite him on my social calendar.
Exactly.
On the
This is
iPhone.
what we're doing tonight.
And if he doesn't press the accept button, girl, he knows he can't decline any of those.
Which, you know, that always keeps things exciting. And we enjoy movie nights together. And he is an avid golfer. I'm not a good golfer. I'm terrible.
Besides terrible, maybe he can help us figure it. I've tried. I've really tried. It's so, can I say it? Don't listen, Steve, earmuffs. Boring. It's so boring. I can't. And it goes on for 6 hours. But so has he been like, come on, try this with me. I love golfing. Or is he like, you know what? I could have this be my thing.
Well, he really is totally good with it being his thing.
Right.
But we do, and especially as we've gotten older, we have friends where the wives or significant others are learning and starting to play more.
Okay.
And these are friends of mine, and they're great. And, you know, I didn't grow up a golfer. I grew up a tennis player. So it's foreign to me. And so I don't really have crazy expectations of myself because I didn't learn it growing up. So I kind of am going into it thinking, okay, well, if I hit some great ones, terrific.
Right.
But I don't expect a lot.
Good.
For myself.
Low expectations. The key to life. The key to golf.
I know it sounds funny, but truly, I really don't. And the idea or thought in my mind is to go out and play with other friends, women or couples who kind of have that same perspective that it's not going to be this competitive situation because I clearly would not be able to play in that.
Yeah,
in that case.
Me too.
But with this, maybe even going out and playing 6 holes or 9 holes, which I don't do often, but I definitely will do it more.
Okay.
Because I do have a really nice group of ladies that we've gone and we've taken lessons together, and it's lighthearted.
Right.
You know, we'll go and for an hour take a putting lesson.
Yes.
And it's kind of, have some rosé.
Yeah.
And putt and pick up some good tips, and you feel good about it. So
for sure,
it's
like a thing to do,
right?
Yes.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, whatever you're doing, keep on doing it because you guys are a great couple. We enjoy you so much. I am going to make quite a bit of a pivot in conversation because no one would know. So talk about looking at someone and not knowing that they have some physical struggle that they have to overcome, like a medical struggle. Because for listeners, I want to describe aesthetically, if you saw Rachel on the street, you would see this gorgeous goddess with beautiful legs, a short dress. I mean, stunning, whatever. If you're listening on Audible, go on YouTube, go on my YouTube channel, you'll see. But there's a purpose in me giving
You'll
this.
Be disappointed.
No, you are not. Have I ever disappointed? No, I really know how to call out beautiful women.
You're beautiful.
But like, I want to paint a picture because it's going to touch on my point. You're not sitting in a wheelchair or using a crutch. So visually, if one were to meet you, let's say at some charity event and chit chat with you while you're holding a glass of champagne, they would never know that for you to have that grip strength, that you had lost it and that you have to fight for these things that are so ordinary to a lot of people because you struggled with an autoimmune disease. And if you're okay with it, I want to talk about it because I think it could help people who are having symptoms, don't know about it, just to spread some awareness.
Right.
And diving into a little bit about how in the very beginning, how do you know like something is off when you're being told by the medical industry, we're not really sure what this is. It's unusual. So tell listeners what you were diagnosed with.
So in 2012, I was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease.
Okay.
Eosinophilic granulomatous with polyangiitis.
Woo! Good thing I didn't try to say that. But that you just saying it out loud is like gut wrenching. So like it sounds like a lot already. So, what
Yeah,
are
it's a
the
lot.
side effects of having that?
Okay, so it's an allergic vasculitis, and it affects all of my organs, and it's as autoimmune diseases are, it's an inflammatory process. But I guess it's a cousin to lupus,
Okay.
and it's very rare. 1 in 100,000 people have this,
Wow.
and the old term was Churg-Strauss syndrome.
Hmm.
And so my diagnosis was relatively fast, actually. It took 9 months to get the diagnosis, which, and I guess in a lot of other cases, people wouldn't think that's fast, but this is so rare that it,
Like nobody knew what was going on.
no. And we would go on an annual ski trip with friends. And this one year at the end of, let's see, it was at the end of 2011, we were in Sun Valley and I was coughing and I couldn't stop coughing. And it was a dry cough, but it was persistent. And it would go on, and it just annoyed everybody in the house with my friends and including my husband.
Right. And they thought it
And
was like one of those coughs that come and go, right? Like a no.
right. And, just stop yourself from coughing and you can do it. You don't have to cough. And it was just, I couldn't stop coughing. And it persisted. So I remember January 1st, 2012, I was in the urgent care. We flew back from Sun Valley, literally checked into the urgent care that day and had a chest x-ray. And from there, fast forward, I saw a variety of specialists from a pulmonologist to infectious disease doctors to an allergist. And it was the allergist who then referred me to an ENT, who I wound up having sinus surgery. And then I was referred to a rheumatologist. So it's kind of the process of multi-specialties who had looked at everything. And then finally, after ordering the right tests and seeing the inflammatory marks with my sedimentation rate being off the charts, I think normal is like 0 to 16, and I think it was at 130.
Wow.
So I was basically with the sinus surgery, they were able to get a biopsy to, I guess, find the granulomas, I think, in my lungs because I had nodules on my lungs. This was kind of the whole process that was going on.
And it sounds like
So
the feeling I feel when you describe it is like confusion in the sense that something's going on and you have to go to all these different specialties in medicine and to piece it together like a
right.
puzzle.
100%. Absolutely. And that's a big part of medicine that, today I'm very grateful. Thankfully, I've got my father who is a retired cardiologist, but
Right. So he was advocating for you in this
100%,
process. Yeah.
and he's basically been my quarterback. But like that, he basically, you have to, and he could speak the lingo, the medical lingo.
Yes. Which is a blessing in it because if you don't have that, you can get lost in the system.
Right. 100%.
I love how you described that he's your quarterback. What a beautiful father-daughter relationship.
Aw.
So he was really hands-on.
Very much. And still, even to this day, he goes to basically every one of my doctor's appointments.
Wow.
So then fast forward, after getting diagnosed, I was put on megadoses of steroids, 60 milligrams of prednisone for months on end, and slowly titrated very gradually down to 40. And I had the whole moon face, all the symptoms that you get from the steroids.
Okay.
All of it.
And are the steroids a long-term? Was it a long-term
I was on for years on steroids. And my rheumatologist had talked to us about other medications, but these other medications are like chemotherapy type drugs.
Wow.
Which really just scared me. And it's, the steroids were sort of a double-edged sword. It put me it was able to control and get me to let's say in a remission per se, but it has a lot of negatives with my bones and all the things that I'm now experiencing, all the downsides. So, she had talked to me about other medications that would be options as well.
Right.
And I was just frightened to do that because I didn't want to be susceptible to just catching anything and then not having my own immune system to fight something off.
And it feels a little bit like any lane you picked, there would be some side effects like steroids. Just to touch up on what you said for listeners, there would be bone issues too. You've had diminished bone density, correct? So like, is that where the gripping? I want to give a visual of like what the day to day is like for you, like little moments that feel hard that nobody could look at and see when they're
Right.
sitting in front of you.
So a week before I turned 45, and I'm 53, it was December 21st, 2015, and I'll never forget.
Wow,
because
you
it's changed my
remember.
life.
Wow.
Yeah, it changed my life forever.
Yes.
And I told you I get emotional.
Yeah, it's okay because this is emotional. And for people who are battling it, it is for them too. And a week before your 45th, like you think that's a woman's prime, right? Yeah.
So
No.
we were up in Los Angeles with friends celebrating my birthday. And the week of, when I was driving, and I was on so many different steroids.
At this point, you're already on medication.
Yeah, because I was diagnosed in 2012 with the autoimmune disease. And maybe I was on 10 milligrams of steroids at this point, or 20. But, I was up and down all the time on steroids, because I would flame up. I would flare. And there was a whole flare up period and for years. And that was a whole other story.
Okay.
But this was something that was different. And I just felt, my stomach felt numb. And it was hard to explain. But I was talking to my sister on the phone when I was driving. And I just said, it's so weird. I don't know. I just kind of feel like my stomach feels kind of numb. And she said, oh, Rachel, you've got to call Dr. Magilesi. And she's my rheumatologist, and I love her to pieces. I have only the best things to say about her.
Yes.
But anyhow, I said, Jen, what is she going to do? Put me on more steroids? I mean,
right.
I'm already on, like, what
how
else
much more can you take?
Yeah. And so now we're up in LA celebrating my birthday. And
you've kind of not ignored, but you're kind of like, okay, I'm not going to think about the stomach issue.
Just kind of a little bit, I'm feeling a little bit weird. Like, it's just, I can't explain it. And what happened then became my now normal for the rest of my life. Well, hopefully there'll be something down the road. But so that evening, just even walking downstairs, I just felt weird. I can't even put the words into, I can't come up with a word, just weird. And then the next day in the shower, I felt tingly. My hands were tingly. And I just kind of got scared. And I said, oh my gosh, I don't know what's happening right now. And at this point, I've got, like a pharmacy in my makeup or whatever.
Yeah, I can imagine all these pills everywhere
that were up in LA at a hotel. So I thought, well, maybe I'm potassium depleted or something. Maybe I need to take potassium. So I call my dad. It's a Sunday. And my dad said, well, call Dr. Magilesi. It was a Sunday. So I wound up paging her, and she got in touch with me. And long story short, I wound up talking to her, and she prescribed a week of 1,000 milligrams intravenously of steroids, which didn't do anything. Basically, my body on December 21st went numb, and I can't feel.
Wow.
So
when you rub your fingers together, like what? Okay, let's like people snapping like this, right? You can't feel that when you snap. You can't feel
do
it.
this. I'm looking.
I see it. So if you don't look at your fingers, if you close your eyes, you can't snap because you can't feel it.
So if I'm gonna pick a glass up of, perfect example, a glass of wine. It's easier for me to drink out of a glass with a stem than a large glass, because I have to hold it like this, look where I'm going, and then I'll drink it like this. Wow. I look like an idiot.
But that makes sense if you don't feel.
I can't feel. So if I hold it like this, so with a plastic cup, I was holding a plastic cup once, and someone said, gosh, you look like you're really angry, because I was crushing it. I don't know how hard I'm holding it. So I was literally crushing
Oh,
crushing the
yeah.
cup because I'm holding on with my grip, right?
Right.
So this is, I don't know how hard I'm holding, and I've dropped and broken so many glasses. So now I'm just very careful with that respect with my hands.
Right.
With my body, I have to be very careful. And
Like you can't walk in the
my
dark.
balance, exactly. My
Yeah.
balance is affected. So my balance and my gait are off. I need my eyesight for everything. So if we're in the movies and I am looking for a piece of gum in my purse and it's dark, if I put my hand in the purse, I can't feel. I can't distinguish between keys or my wallet or a piece of gum
Right.
so I need to actually see something, and I have night lights.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't want to draw attention to myself. It's embarrassing, but I have to pay attention to absolutely every single thing that I do,
Right.
everything that I do physically. So if I were to get up, I'll hold on. Going downstairs are especially hard. I feel like I'm in someone else's body. That's the
Mm,
only way that I can describe it. So it's changed my life.
right.
Um, I am unable to play tennis. I'm unable to ski. I'm unable to do a lot of things.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
um, people ask what gets me going or
Right.
how do I get through things? And I have a lot to be grateful for. And so I count my blessings. And
I love that. I love that.
it's obviously really upsetting.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have it worse. There are people who are dying of cancer. And I am not going to sit around feeling sorry for myself when I have a lot of
Mm,
things to be very grateful for. So I look at life with gratitude. And I'm not going to say that I don't have my days.
of course.
I do.
Absolutely.
But, I just have to focus on the things that I am able to do. And I'm here with you. And like
Yes.
you fill my heart and my soul. And it makes me happy to be here.
Ah, Rachel, I love that. And that's just such a perfect way to kind of bring our conversation to an end because you're right. Like you are so right. It can be worse. There's a spectrum to all of it. And yet we have to acknowledge that these hurdles and the one you discuss now it is a hurdle. It is an everyday, it's your lifestyle has changed, your day-to-day has changed. But I agree with you. You have clearly focused and done a lot of self-reflection or positive gratitude, like work with yourself. Because when we're out and about, and we still are out and about, I always feel like you're in the present moment
Mm.
and that you're enjoying whatever is happening right now. Whether that's getting in a little Duffy, Rachel has a Duffy with her hubby and Duffying somewhere for lunch, or just being with friends. And I know like recently I called you and you're so cute. You're like, okay, I could talk. I have 5 minutes. I'm going to meet up with my friends. They're going to teach me how to play Mahjong,
Oh,
which is like a very complicated Chinese version of chess. And that, like, to end on a positive note, Mahjong is also, if I'm saying it correctly, it requires use of your hands,
yes.
right?
Yes.
And you are doing it. I mean, you could throw your hands up and, Hail Mary, this is enough. I'm done. But you didn't do that. You have never done that. Clearly from our conversation today, whether it was surrogacy
Oh.
and finding the right companion for yourself, releasing Haley and manning up in the car and saying, I'm not going to cry, to now, this moment. And that's very admirable. Very admirable.
Thank you. And I like to think that I surround myself with supportive, wonderful friends. And so I think a little help along the way with my friend who's teaching me how to play Mahjong and giving me tips because she knows about my let's say, handicaps
Yeah.
of, okay, I've got this. This is what you're going to do. We're going to pull the board out like this with the
I
tiles
love
this way. And so, which I so appreciate that. And it's encouraging.
Yes.
And instead of wanting to give up, I want to be able to do it. I'm going to
Yes.
figure out how I can make this work.
That's so cool. So cool. Rachel and we have trips lined up together.
Yay.
And so we are not going to be not having fun. We're going to do everything. Rachel and I are going to embark on a second honeymoon.
Yes.
And we're going to take our side accessories, i.e. our husbands. And we told them if they get lost on a stranded island again, Rachel and I are getting on Tinder ASAP. This time, 15 years later, we're not waiting. We're not sending out a call rescue team for them. So thank you for your friendship. Thank you for sharing the beautiful and the vulnerable moments of your life today. I really think it's going to help someone who's listening. And I think your story is so powerful, Rachel. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you for having me.
And that's a wrap. Dear listeners, if you like what you heard, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, and follow me on my journey on Instagram and YouTube. Until next time.